Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, the last Indie World showcase of the year. Probably. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going really great.
Oh man, tell me about it.
Excited to have the holidays almost here. Hard to complain. We're both wearing hoodies.
Yeah, so that's hard to complain about that. Do you? Obviously, like this year, holidays are different in that like no one's traveling or should be traveling, I guess. But Sarah and I went through and mapped out our last 9 Christmases. Like all the Christmases since we moved to LA to be like, where were we this year? Where were we this year? And this is Mark. This will be the first year in 9 years that I have not flown back to Southern California on Christmas Day.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, because that's what we always do. It's a little bit cheaper. We always just like go, a couple days before and then fly back on Christmas Day itself.
Yeah, you guys were like clockwork. I guess I never thought about that. How many Christmases have we known each other at this point?
Probably 8.
I think that's probably right.
7 or 8, yeah.
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many Christmas episodes of this show have we recorded?
Oh my gosh. That's, 7 or 8? 20? I don't even know at this point.
I mean, last year's Christmas episode has to count for like 5 or 6, right? That was fun. I have no idea when we would ever do something like that Christmas Carol episode again, but it was super fun and we should find an excuse to do it. No one send in ideas on what we can do that's like that. We'll stumble on it ourselves. But here's something you can send in to us. You can send in your mailing address so you can borrow my copy of Sonic Forces. Maybe there's a Goose Game in there. Who knows? Who cares? All you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And give us a mailing address, and I'll send you either my copy of Sonic Forces or a copy of Untitled Goose Game for you to play for as long as you want. And then you gotta send it back, Goose or Hedgehog, either way. And then the last thing, this one, Mark, this is important.
It's
right?
And like the time is so short, precious few minutes at this point.
That's right. It is important and urgent, which makes it something that you simply must attend to right now. We are doing an episode where we are predicting what is going to happen with Nintendo, what Nintendo is going to do in 2021. So we need your guesses, your predictions, your clairvoyant research, your ability to reach into the stars and see the future. So
pull out that Ouija board.
Pull out the Ouija board, pull out the Magic 8-Ball, pull out the tarot deck, pull out whatever toy you think knows what's going to happen next, and ask it, and then email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. We need those predictions, however, by Friday. I'm going to say Friday at midnight. Wait, Friday at midnight means first thing in the morning, right? Friday at 11:59 p.m.
Pacific time.
I mean, really, you just get it to us before Saturday. This Saturday, the 19th, Friday the 18th. Get those predictions to us by then so we can incorporate them into our predictions episode. No one could have predicted 2020. And none of us will successfully predict 2021, but let's try feebly to do it. All right, Mark, that's enough screwing around. It is time for...
I guess we
you want
should
to screw around a little more.
Well, we should just briefly mention that the reason why we're asking you to get these in by the 18th is because programming note, for next week and the following week, we're just going to be doing 1 episode a week, taking a little bit of a break. It's a slower news time, so we're not going to be doing 2 episodes every week, but we will be back to 2 episodes starting in the new year.
Right. And so the week of Christmas, that Tuesday, we are discussing the 1995 classic film Mortal Kombat with Colin J. Morris, who has been on previous episodes of the show that we have since taken down. So anyway, it's a fun conversation about Mortal Kombat. And then the next week, on Tuesday. This is the week of New Year's. We are going to be making our own predictions for 2021. So check those out. Rewatch Mortal Kombat, no matter what Mark says, and enjoy enjoy these episodes. All right, Mark. Let's get into our topic, the Indie World Showcase that aired on Tuesday. Classic Nintendo move here to announce on a Monday that they're going to do a presentation on Tuesday, giving us about 24 hours notice. Mark, I don't know about you, but I saw this and I was like, oh, thank God. But purely for content creation reasons.
Purely for selfish reasons.
Yes. At the end of the year here, and it seems to happen every year, we start to like run out of ideas. We come back fresh every January, we come back strong, and I believe in us, and we're going to do it again next year. But by this point in every calendar year, we, heads get foggy. We need the break.
Yeah, you still have all that turkey from Thanksgiving, or not turkey, depending on if you had a Thanksgiving or if you're vegetarian like Patrick. It was a bad, like, it just wasn't a great, contribution on my part, but we got to roll with it.
Hey, I mean, yes, we do. And no, it wasn't that bad. So the, we knew this thing was going to be about 15 minutes, just indie games. So a little bit of, the overview by the numbers. This was 17 minutes and 14 seconds long. 13 games were featured with another 6 in the sizzle reel. 4 of those games were available immediately, but also Super Meat Boy Forever, which just comes out next week. Just about everything else is tagged for early 2021 or, the
summer,
spring, or exactly. So a decent number of games. Mark, just like overall, what did you think of this one? Was it exciting? Was it a letdown? How are you feeling?
I thought it was fine. Not my favorite Indie World Showcase. But it had a number of games that I'm like interested in and like pegged as something that I want to know more about, if nothing else.
Yeah, and there is always, like, I appreciate the Indie World Showcases for sort of surfacing things that Nintendo is putting like some amount of money behind, either to like secure exclusivity or some sort of deal, which means like that they must believe in it in some capacity, right? And there are a handful of games in here that I'm like, I don't know why this is the horse they chose to back, but like, I guess it's in here. But I mean, I'd say a full half of these games interest me in some capacity, which is a pretty good batting average, really. Mark, what do you think? I had this like sad little moment at the beginning of this thing when it was just the two voices, Kristen and Paul, that narrate this thing, and I was like, no, I miss having the human beings on screen, like walk out, do their dumb little jokes. For whatever reason, the dumb jokes bother me less when there's a human and not just like a voice.
Yeah, especially I don't know. I agree with you. I don't want to like pick on Kristen or Paul too much because it's not like they're professional like voiceover or like announcers or anything. But
aren't they? What do you mean?
I assume
Who are they?
I assume I know that's the weird thing. I assume just because of like the other actually maybe I mean I am basing this on no information because they don't like introduce themselves with titles or anything. But I guess my assumption was that since previous Indie World Showcases had been like presented by people who were associated with like Nintendo's
Damon
partner
Baker,
outreach,
for example.
Yeah, that like Kristen and Paul were as well. But you're right, there I have no proof of that. But I am giving them a little bit of grace because clearly they were recording this separately and then it was like edited together. So like when the banter is a little awkward or strained, like there's really no getting around it.
Oh, I mean, I blame the copy entirely. Like the what they were given to read was rough and weirdly argumentative. Like they pit the two hosts against each other throughout. And I was like, whoa, what's
Especially
going on here?
when she's like, I'm really excited for Super Meat Boy Forever, and he's like, this is really hard, right?
Yeah, not a good look to be like, I think we should have the man tell the woman that these levels are probably too hard for her. That's not great. And also when she's making these cat puns and he's like got a groan about the cat puns, it's like,
Yeah.
come on, man, just let it go. Let him have the cat puns. So look, Kristen and Paul, we're fine with you guys, but whoever at Treehouse is writing copy for them, like it can be a little more buddy. It's okay.
Yeah. It's okay for people to like each other.
Look, that's important. It's okay for people to like each other. You know how like the first no, you know what though? There's a lot of cases where that's not true. Planes, trains, and automobiles. As soon as they start to like each other, the movie falls apart. They need to hate each other.
Okay, so one example, Patrick.
Yeah, all right. Good point. Man, I sure am glad that Martin Short's not in that movie. Mark, should we start to get through the actual announcements from the presentation?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the first things that they showed off were that Spelunky 2 and Spelunky are both coming to Switch. Spelunky is originally an Xbox arcade game that just a digital release that is a sort of roguelike platforming puzzly kind of experience. Always looked pretty cool, but is just outside of the sort of gaming ecosystems that I've been able to play in.
Yeah.
So are you interested in this one?
No, I am not really, but I was not that this information was like out of my grasp beforehand, but I just never sought it out. Like I had heard of Spelunky, I knew people were excited about Spelunky 2, but I didn't know anything about the games. And so when it was included in the Indie World Showcase, it was a little bit of like, oh, that's what those games are. Because I had heard so much about them. Again, could have YouTubed it or Googled it at any time, but never did. This is coming out in summer 2021 on Switch, which I guess I was surprised at how far out some of this stuff is.
Yeah.
But it just reminded me that there were a lot of games from the last Indie World Showcase, like Bear and Breakfast, that still haven't released yet. So it does make sense that some of these would be further out.
Yeah. Well, and I've got a little list here of games, of indie games that were announced in previous Indie World Showcases as either without a date or coming sometime in 2020 that are still MIA. And we'll go over all of those at the end. Bear and Breakfast, I believe we had, if not a date, at least like a specific window of 2021 sometime. I like that Bear and Breakfast is going to be our our sort of touchdown point for that. And both Spelunky and Spelunky 2 have multiplayer. For Spelunky 1, it's just local multiplayer, and for Spelunky 2, has both local and online.
Up next was Fisty Fluffs, which is a action brawler between cats that comes out in early 2021, coming first to Switch. This is what set off like the cat puns that kind of threaded its way through the entire presentation. I thought I like the art style of this. I think it's a fun idea. I wish that they had commented on the physics, or they explained the physics of it.
The physics look crazy, right?
All the cats look like their back legs had been broken and they were just kind of dragging them around, but nobody commented on it. And so I assumed it kind of looks like the Octodad physics a little bit,
yes.
where it seems totally purposeful, but nobody said anything. So clearly it doesn't seem like that's a selling point. It just seems like an art choice. I don't know. That really stuck out to me.
Yeah, it does. It seemed very much like Octodad or Speech Simulator, where you're using really kind of fiddly controls to control each individual limb of the cat. Which seems like it would be absolute chaos if you've got 4 players all controlling cats battling in the living room.
That's what I mean. I don't know if that's actually how it plays, but it's just how it looked. And so the fact that they didn't comment on it makes me think that maybe that's not the case. It's just a choice in the presentation.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like we didn't get too much information really about this game. It was really just
no.
what do the cats do when the humans aren't around? They fight, and some of the weapons are normal household objects. Coming to first to Switch early 2021.
Yeah, that's true. Because in some of like the gameplay, like it wasn't. We saw them like all the cats like knocking stuff over in the house, and like dollar signs were adding up. So it does seem like there's a lot more to it than just like the short glimpse we got here.
Then next up was Very Very Valet, which they described as a party game for up to 4 players. And it's like a car parking. You're a valet. You work as a valet. And to me, this read as like, because everyone liked Overcooked, here's Overcooked, but you're parking cars. Very much like Moving Out is Overcooked, but you're a moving company, or like how Stretchers is Overcooked, but you're EMTs.
Paramedics.
Yeah. So this looks like that. Except I don't know. I feel like all those other games have a certain amount of like charm or identity to them, and this one felt kind of like generic indie game look to me.
Oh, that's I thought this one looked like a lot of fun.
No.
Like yeah, like this is one I would be interested in like checking out. I would love if it had like a demo or something. I agree that it is very kind of like, again, the physics on this seem like purposefully crazy.
Yeah.
Like the cars are flying all over the place. It makes it very chaotic. But that seems like fun to me. Like I can imagine a scenario where you're playing this with 4 other people, and unlike Overcooked or something where you have to be very deliberate, this seems like a lot of it is maybe not out of your control, but like the physics are part of what makes it crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this is interesting. This is one where I wish they would have specified or like got into it a little bit deeper, just to be like, these are co-op experiences, or like or these are competitive experiences, because like that's so like for most of the other games that I described, they're all co-op, right? And I guess it wasn't clear to me whether you're working together to park cars. Maybe not. Maybe you're trying to park more cars than everyone else.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but this is one that I thought looked kind of fun.
And it comes out early 2021, and it again is a timed exclusive on Switch. Just as I'm saying, timed exclusive on Switch here, and coming first to Switch for Fisty Fluffs, I would say that the language on how they're talking about whether these games are coming to Switch first, inconsistent. But I think for the most part, if these games didn't already appear on something, they are now coming first to Switch for a limited time.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of them are, or they're like console exclusive to Switch for a limited time. You have to like really parse it, where it's like, okay, Fisty Fluffs is coming first to Switch, which means it must not have had like a PC release. Very Very Valet is like timed exclusive on Switch, so I guess it's coming to Switch. Yeah, like what's the difference?
Yeah, it is unclear.
Up next is a game from a development company in Peru called Tunche. It has like hand-drawn art set in a, I would say, well, very clearly like stylized fantasy version of the Amazon rainforest. Kind of looks like a brawler, maybe with like some light RPG elements. There's 5 heroes with different abilities, including the Hat Kid from A Hat in Time is a playable character. It includes local co-op. Another one coming in early 2021 in March. And this is another first on Switch.
Yeah, the art style for this looked really cool. The rainforest looks like awesome, and it's kind of cool to just have a specific like cultural bent to this. Like one of the same things that attracted me about Raji from the previous Indie World showcase. That it's just nice to have something that doesn't look like everything else. Didn't really pan out for me for Raji, but like I don't know, this looks neat, and a co-op brawler is sort of my style too. I don't know, this one looks good to me.
Yeah, and this one, when you were saying previously that like you were curious how they choose which games to highlight. Not that I think this one didn't deserve to be highlighted, but it was more like, yeah, what is the process for them like choosing which developers and like which projects they are going to spotlight in these sorts of things? Because like there's one later that like I like the game looks not at all interesting to me, but that was the one they chose to highlight, and I'm just super curious how like those calls get made.
Yeah, well, and I'd also be interested to. We're sidetracking here tremendously, but that's fine. Um, I wonder how much like money Nintendo is putting behind these
Oh, interesting.
productions and studios. Because like right now they're like what we know of what's coming from Nintendo in the future is super slim. Like we don't know. We don't have like a bunch of Nintendo games coming down the pipe. Like the next thing we know about is a Wii U port, right? So I think it behooves them to get games on Switch first, but also to sort of bolster their ability to make those games in the first place. And
Yeah.
Nintendo's got the money, so
Right. And when you think about like I mean, I don't know how much these like having these indie titles first on Switch like really drive Switch sales. Like I have no idea. But you would have to imagine that like the cost in doing so, right? We're probably talking like tens of thousands of dollars instead of
yeah.
trying to like get an exclusive like Monster Hunter Rise or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's less about like an individual game driving sales and more just like here is a comprehensive place to play a bunch of cool indie
For
games.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, like I would think that having Hades on Switch is a pretty big driver right now. Not necessarily to sell consoles, but just to like get people back in that ecosystem and playing their
Yeah.
Switches again. Um, like I think that is it. That was a big get for them, and who knows which one of these is going to be their next big get. Um, how do you feel about the Hat in Time kid? The Hat Kid joining these. Like everyone else looks very much at home in the rainforest, and then there's the Hat Kid. It seems like a weird inclusion to me.
It does seem like a weird inclusion. It's but I do like seeing presumably indie developers just
Yeah.
like helping each other out because how else would because it is such a like specific inclusion into this game to be
Yes.
like and then the Hat Kid from A Hat in Time.
And then next we saw a trailer for Cyber Shadow. This is the game that is being published by Yacht Club, the Shovel Knight developer, and it is being developed by Mechanical Head Studios. And it looks a lot like the Messenger, the 2D like pixel art ninja game from a couple years ago that I really liked. But I would say that this has got a lot more of like a technological and like urban bent to it. So you're seeing a lot of like robot ninjas and like robot dogs and like I don't know the backgrounds look a little bit more like Axiom Verge or like
Yeah.
R type have more of that like Akira sort of energy to it but in like a classic 8-bit fashion. This game looked cool when we first just saw like a title screen for it um which feels like it was at least a year ago. But now we've got a release date for it. It's coming out in January 26th, 2021. Yacht Club has earned, whatever from me. I will be there for anything that they publish or develop. So I'll pick this one up right away. No question.
Right, because Yacht Club is of course the developers and publishers of Shovel Knight and all of the Shovel Knight games. In fact, with Cyber Shadow on Switch exclusively, if you have any of the Shovel Knight amiibo, there's a little bit of added functionality in Cyber Shadow. I think this game looks really cool. The music was awesome. Um, and it's nice to get a release date for it. I do every time I see it, it does make me think of the Messenger. But I think you're right that like the Messenger, at least to my knowledge, like it was very like, okay, this is the 8-bit part and this is the 16-bit part,
Yeah.
and like we're gonna try to stay true to that aesthetic. Cyber Shadow definitely has that like retro style to it, but it doesn't feel beholden to like the technology of like an 8-bit, 16 or 32-bit system. It's just kind of like using that look as a and but painting with a broad brush.
Yeah, and it seems like a really neat game. They talked about permanent upgrades that give you abilities that you carry with you throughout like further into the game. There was some platforming in there that looked a lot like Spectre Knight from the Shovel Knight games, where like you jump and then like attack to dash forward and like stringing those together, so you can navigate some pretty tricky areas. Seems exactly like my jam, so I'm very excited for this one.
Next up was Calico, which is a cat cafe sim, which is an appealing idea if nothing else. This was one of the titles that was released on the same day as the Indie World Showcase, so is available now and was available on Tuesday.
Yeah, this was one where I was like, huh, I wonder why this is being featured here. Like, I found this thing like aesthetically to be like, I don't know, it looked like sloppy or gross or old, or I don't know. I didn't like the way it looked. I like the idea of running a cat cafe, but like, I don't know, nothing about what they showed makes it an appealing game to me.
Yeah, I unfortunately I agree. I agree.
And you and I are all about dumb cute games, right?
It's like what I thrive on.
I played 200 hours of Animal Crossing this year. Next up was Alba, a wildlife adventure, which takes place in, quote, a visually stunning Mediterranean paradise, unquote. Heal sick animals and save the island. This one looked cute. It's not totally clear to me what like the moment to moment gameplay is. You're definitely like wandering around in a cartoony environment in like a 3D, almost like Mario 64-ish perspective. But like probably not combat, maybe just more like kind of fetch questy or like resource management. But it looked cute. You're a kid saving animals and saving the environment. That sounds great.
Yeah, and it's from the developers of Monument Valley, which was like is a huge game. I feel like it exploded on mobile and is available on other platforms.
Do you know anything about Monument Valley? Because that's a name that I've heard thrown around a bunch.
No, I don't. Not really. I think it's a puzzle game, but I've never played it myself, or it has at least like the gameplay is puzzle focused.
Yeah, so maybe that'll be the case here, or at least like
but
exploration for sure.
Yeah, I do think it looks really cute. One of the things that like Alba and then some of the other games that are brought up, it just kind of like hit home to me like how advanced like indie games have become.
Yeah.
You still have a lot of like 2D pixel art games, and which I feel like is kind of like the foundation of indie games. But to see like how broad, like now like an indie game could mean anything, and like all different art styles rendered in really high fidelity. It's kind of cool, and this was one where I was really struck by like how how nice the world looks. Like it feels like a place you want to just exist and hang out in.
And that comes out spring 2021.
The next was Gnosia, I think I actually watched the showcase or like this part a couple of times to try to remember how you're supposed to pronounce it. I think it's Gnosia. But it's a procedurally generated sci-fi like visual novel, murder mystery type thing. Basically, it's you're like on a ship and
a spaceship.
You're on a spaceship,
right.
Yeah, and you're trying to figure out like who is human, who is Gnosia. And they said that each round takes about 5 to 15 minutes to play, and like every time it's like a different combination. They say that it's really unlikely that you'll have like the same outcome. And apparently this looked really interesting to me. I like the visual style. I like the idea of the gameplay. I like that like 5 to 15 minute like short little thing. And apparently the more you play, like, the more you find out about like Gnosia, the more you find out about like why the time loops are happening. Apparently this was a game that like came out on the PSP after Sony had like right after Sony had announced that like the PSP was end of lifing. This game came out, but it reviewed really well in Japan, kind of got like a cult following, and I think this is the first time that it's available outside of Japan. It comes out in early 2021. I think it's definitely something I'm going to pick up.
Yeah, it seems cool. I obviously have been singing Hades praises for a while, but I really like the concept of a game that sort of justifies its multiple loops through like the same experience. And if this is, like a time loop situation or whatever it is, it's a cool idea to explore, especially around something that is procedurally generated, to have like a more meaningful skeleton. Seems really cool. Next up is Happy Game, which is, I don't really know where to begin with this one. It looks like I had a book of Tim Burton poetry a while back that had like illustrations that he did. And this game looks like that, where it's like you can tell he's trying to be cute, but he can't stop from being too dark. So that's what this game is. It is a cute and terrifying puzzle game. The developer described it as a psychedelic horror game with music from the band DVA. Comes out spring 2021.
This is the one where, like, yeah, like I personally, this is not to my taste at all, so I don't understand like why this one was showcased.
Yeah.
Of all games in the universe. On my rewatch of the showcase in preparation for this episode, I just skipped this part. It's like I didn't find this game
Too
like
scary for Mark.
interesting or it kind of. It was just like, no, this is gross. Don't need it in my life.
It's the same thing that I feel whenever Little Nightmares 2 comes up. I'm like, nope, not for Patrick. I don't need it.
Next was Super Meat Boy Forever, which feels like a game we heard about forever ago.
Very good.
Finally has a release
Mark,
date.
you've redeemed yourself from that earlier comment.
Thank you. Oh, thank goodness. Coming out on December 23rd, so really soon. It offers thousands of Meat Boy levels. This is I've never played the original Meat Boy, but I watched Patrick play some of it. It looks punishing, but if that's your thing, it looks super fun.
So yeah, I played a little bit of Super Meat Boy Forever at some gaming convention at some point in the obviously not in the last 9 months, but sometime in the last like two years. And it is a 2-button game, right? Where Meat Boy is always running. And the two actions that you can perform are punch and jump. And the punch like makes you slide a little bit, and the jump makes you jump. And so everything is just based around the timing and positioning and avoiding obstacles using just those two moves. So it is not an endless runner, though it has a little bit of that in its DNA. Everything is meticulously designed. So it is a runner for a very long time, but all of the challenges are specific and not just like random or procedural. I'm very excited for this.
So it's like Super Mario Run.
It's kind of like Super Mario Run, except he's so much faster. And Super Mario Run didn't really have, it had fail states, but like it wanted to put you back in that bubble and like get you trying to just like continue your way through the level or collect coins. Was a little bit more the speed of that. If I don't remember, but I assume that it was like the original Super Meat Boy, where when you die, you respawn immediately from like the beginning of the level. Like immediately, like you're still seeing the splatter from your first character dying, and the second one is running already. So I assume that that'll continue over here, and you'll just have to learn these kind of bite-sized levels and have a ton of fun doing it. I'm next. The next next game up was Grindstone, which is a sort of puzzly game. I'm not super familiar with Grindstone. I know it was big on Apple Arcade last year. Is this one that you know at all, Mark?
No, it's not. With a lot of these games, and like Grindstone is one of them, it feels like I can't tell if they want you to like see the tiny bit taste that they're giving you in these showcases and then go like do your own discovery on it, or if like this game was already well known to most people who aren't me and are more tapped in to like gaming on other platforms, and so they are like, Grindstone, I like immediately know what that is.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely the case with this one, because the little bit of gameplay that they show from it does not make it clear how you play the game. There's some sort of puzzle board and like a path through it, and you do something, and a little dude on the screen starts swinging a sword around. It's not clear. Evidently, the game is good. It also came out on the same day as the presentation, so that's it.
And then Sizzle Reel time.
Sizzle Reel.
They start out.
We'll go back and forth.
Okay, great. So they start out with a game called When the Past Was Around, which is an adventure game with like a hand-drawn art style that was available at the time of the showcase.
And then next up was Cosmocrats, which is a puzzle game about like rearranging things in space. That's coming out in March 2021.
Next was Hoa Oa. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's a really like painterly um platformer that looks very much like a Studio Ghibli film.
Yeah.
Definitely like cribbing that style. Coming out in April of 2021.
Yeah, and there was definitely like a little character swinging from a vine and like looking cute. So like, I don't know. I'll be paying attention to this one. The next was Hazel Sky, which looked like a third-person adventure exploration, maybe some action.
I just couldn't get past the fact that the main character looked like Conan O'Brien.
Outrageous, but you're right.
And it has this is another one where I was like, ooh, like indie games can be anything now, because it had like a very kind of like claymation, little Gumby-ish art style to it.
Yeah, indie games can be anything, but in the very first scene that they showed for Hazel Sky, it's the character like picking up a key and like turning it over in their hand. And the little bit they showed of it was really framey. Like,
Yeah, it was.
did not look like it was performing well. It's coming out in March 2021, so either I hope they get that ironed out, or it's like a weird isolated case, and Nintendo was like, I don't know, just use it. But yeah, I thought I thought it was weird to show the game not performing super well.
Up next was Trash Sailors, which again, just a real brief glimpse, but what we looked at seems like it's a multiplayer, probably like resource management, base management game on a raft that's made of garbage. In that tiny bit we saw, it looked kind of appealing. Comes out in spring 2021.
Yeah, yeah, like aesthetically, I think is a fun idea that you're on like a garbage island defending it from monsters that eat garbage. I don't know. That sounds fun. And then the last one was a game called Finding Paradise, which like looks aesthetically identical to Stardew Valley.
Totally. Yeah.
Which I think is just sort of like the default, because it also like feels like the escapists and a lot of these games where like that must just be a like developer's tool set to like make games in that like 16-bit style.
Yeah, I wonder, because this to me looked a lot like Stardew Valley, the character designs, anyways.
Yeah. But there's not actually farming. It seemed like there was some weird stuff happening, maybe like a laboratory, and at some point two of the characters are like stepping out of a portal on top of some clouds. So like there's got to be some fantasy or sci-fi element to it. But again, did not really spend a lot of time explaining what this game was. It comes out spring 2021.
And that's the end of the scissor reel and close to the end of the presentation. But there was one last thing, and that was that the hit like mobile game Among Us was releasing on Switch on the same day as the presentation. So that game is now available, and it has crossplay with the PC version, the mobile version, and now the Switch version.
So Mark, you were telling me a little bit about Among Us yesterday, because this is a game that I've not ever played, that I don't really know much about other than AOC playing it and like breaking Twitch records.
Yeah. I played it a little bit on my iPad. So basically, it's kind of like a like multiplayer fun party game version of Gnosis, because you are like up to 10 people on a like space station, or on
always a space station, yeah,
a planet in outer space, and one of you is working against the crew. Like basically, you're like uh the imposter.
Yeah.
And your job is to like kill the rest of the crew and not get caught. Everybody else, you have like tasks you have to do on the space station. So you're running around doing those tasks, and the imposter is like they can slip through vents that nobody else can. And then when somebody stumbles across a dead body, or in some of depending on the settings, you can like just call an emergency meeting because you want to. But then everybody, like, it turns into a chat where you're like talking to each other, and somebody's like, where did you find the body? Like, where was everybody else? And then it kind of becomes like playing like Mafia, where people are accusing each other, and then everybody has to vote. You put that person who loses in the airlock, and the game tells you like, were they imposter, were they not? If they weren't, if you got it wrong, then like the game keeps going as it like whittles down the members of the crew.
So it sounds like it's got, like you say, like Mafia, or like Werewolf, or Secret Hitler, any of those games where you have to lie to your friends. They always stress me out. Those games stress me out so much.
I think they're super fun. This one, I am a little bit interested to see how it works on Switch, but not interested enough to pay the $5 to find out because, if you're playing, it doesn't have any voice chat. So if you're playing with friends, you could call them or do it on Discord or something like that. But the way it works, if you're just playing online with strangers, is all the discussion happens through chat. And so I guess you could play in handheld mode and maybe you'd be able to just use the touchscreen.
That's
But if
tough,
you're playing, if it's available in TV mode, I actually haven't checked to see like that seems like it would be challenging. The other thing that seems like it would be challenging is all the mini games when you're doing the tasks, they require a lot of like kind of like you're drawing a line to connect two things and that kind of stuff. And so it's another thing where you could do it with the joysticks, but it just seems like it's a lot more cumbersome than either doing it with a touchscreen or doing it with a mouse on your PC. So I'm curious to see how it holds up. But if everybody is using, a Switch, then and you're doing it in a handheld mode,
right,
I think it would be totally fine.
Yeah. So and that I think we said is available right now. Is one of the games that was released same day. So that was our 17 minutes and 14 seconds. Mark, you want to go over the couple games, the couple indie games that are either have no date, that were previously announced, or that were announced for 2020 that are not in this presentation and have not yet come out?
Yeah, I'd be curious to know which ones.
So there is Baldo the Guardian Owls, which I don't truly remember what that is. I think it was like
I don't.
like a Zelda.
That sounds
sort
fake.
Of adventure. No, it's real.
I know, but it sounds fake. It's like Baldo, or I guess I'm thinking of Balto, the like hero dog or whatever.
Yes, sure.
And
isn't it also a dog food as well?
Is it? It might be named after
yeah.
the hero dog. And then the Guardian Owls is like it seems like that like animated movie. Yes, exactly. It sounds like a mashed up fake movie.
It's a Zack Snyder movie. Hollow Knight Silk Song still MIA. We saw this thing at E3 last year, right? In Nintendo's booth, being shown off alongside like the Wolfenstein like add-on thing, whatever it was.
Yeah, this is a big one that I know when the Indie World Showcase was announced that a lot of people were anticipating we'd hear something about. But no, nothing so far.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for all of these, at any point we could get a new Indie World Showcase, and it'll be like it's out next week, just like we're seeing with Super Meat Boy Forever. Skatebird, man, Skatebird. Oh, I want to skateboard as a little bird.
This was really funny where they're all writing tech decks. Yeah. This is great because I totally forgot about some of these games, but that's right. Skatebird was a thing.
Axiom Verge 2, which I don't think anyone expected to come out this year, but what wasn't dated, so I thought of including it here.
Yeah, I actually think we got an update from the developer a few weeks or months ago, basically saying that it's taking a little more time and hopefully next year.
And then the last one I have on this list is Boyfriend Dungeon, which where your boys become weapons or the weapons become boys, and then you can date them.
I mean, it's a great premise. Take your time, right? Genius takes time.
Genius does, in fact, take time. Mark, what was your favorite announcement from that was actually in the showcase?
I think I'm most excited about Gnosia, but I know that you weren't as high on it as me, but I think Very, Very Valet looks fun as well.
Look, if you get Very, Very Valet and you want to play it together and we can, remotely, like I would happily do that. For me, it's Super Meat Boy Forever. Like that feels like a oh no, and Cyber Shadow. There were two in here that are like definites for me. And Cyber Shadow may be even even though the other one is Super Meat Boy, may be a meatier experience that I'm excited to dig into. So all in all, like, it's great to have anything in an Indie World Showcase that you can really latch onto, let alone a couple. So not a bad one. All right, Mark, let's close out our discussion. And if you would like to, if you had thoughts about this Indie World Showcase, although it doesn't make sense for me to solicit other people's opinions because we're not going to record a new episode
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Never mind. I'm interested in how everyone feels about this Indie World Showcase, but we're not really going to be able to address them in a timely manner. So don't you dare email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Unless you want to give us your predictions for what Nintendo's going to do in 2021. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like this episode, you should share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share things. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers admitting that I'm the imposter. And thanks for listening.
My name is Will Hines, and I am a ghostwriter, meaning I write other people's books for them. And I have a podcast called I Will Write Your Book, which are recordings of my meetings with my eccentric clients, such as a woman blocked after one sentence of a children's book about her dogs, a romance novelist who dislikes sex, and a man proud of having sampled everything in his local grocery store. This podcast has been described as fully improvised, played by some of the best comedians on the planet Earth. Hey, that's pretty good. That's I Will Write Your Book on Campfire Media.
Campfire.